Welcome to the Brookie Bite Podcast, where we bite into Magic the Gathering news and just have some plain old fun. I'm your host, Kyle Brookins, aka BrookieCookieMagic. So ready your snacks, relax, let's bite into some magical goodness. All right, so this is part two of the same conversation. We're still continuing on because we're both very busy people, so we got to be smart with all this. So we're going to continue on with the second half of the pre-con list of what we would cut and all that. We're going to do Animated Army, the Raccoon deck, which is not really a Raccoon deck. It's a Gruul artifact and enchantment deck.
Then it has some raccoons in it.
Yeah.
For flavor reasons.
When I saw this deck list, this was the one that got me the most excited because it literally, the entire market is make trash, do smash. It's hilarious. And I think out of all of them, I think Bellow, the commander itself, has really good potential of being one of those great commanders in the short term. Maybe in the long term, but in the short term. And there's a reason why. Because I personally just hate high cost cards that just really don't help you. They help you then, but then people know what they are. Well, when if it enters the field, it then with Bellow becomes a creature and it's indestructible. So people can't do it on their turn. They gotta wait a little bit. So he's just really, really cool. Gives you a lot of different ways to make fun, play with these high expensive cost cards. In enchantments and in artifacts. I mean, I don't like Gilded Lotus, but I like Gilded Lotus in this deck because it just makes the most sense.
Yeah, and again, it's like the coveted jewel. When it costs that much, don't think of it as ramp. Just think of it as a big mid-game rock, but not ramp itself. Slight difference.
Yeah. So in our games the other night was Sunday. Today's a Tuesday. On my table was me, my wife, and Austin. And we were able to do actually 2 games in the middle of year 1. So I actually went against Bellow twice.
Yay!
And I will say it's probably one of the more consistent decks in a way. But they're still, we've been talking about the scatteredness a little bit. So it's not entirely the best thing in the world. But I think it has a lot more potential. It does have some potential. I would say the best belt deck is probably the group hug deck that we talked about on last time. But what was your go around with it? In your very long game.
Yes, it was this and squirrels, and I was playing the group hug. The person running this deck did not have the best of luck. And since it was a training game and we were all open hand, he was very low on mana, and he kept drawing high casting things, so it took a long time for him to get going, and that was with me gifting him every card draw that came down the line. But that said, once it came online, it was pretty neat. Make big things, smash face, which is what Gruul does, which is really a lot of fun, in my opinion. That said, there's several cards in here that have me scratching my head. Because if the goal of Commander is to get your Commander into play to do their Commandery thing, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here that doesn't, for lack of a better word, it doesn't do that, and it's frustrating, even though they're nice cards.
So yeah, I'll start off with the cuts and the adds.
Okay.
The first one I would cut, and I love the card. I love the art. I think it's cute as all get out. Rolling hamster sphere.
Say that again.
It's the ball of hamsters.
Yes.
It's like 5 for a 4/4 that you have to accrue, and it makes hamsters. So I get the idea of it is for it's definitely for it to get you little 1/1 blockers because if you have a bunch of artifacts down and when you're done they're creatures on Bellow's turn, but when it's not Bellow's turn they're not animated, so they're just back to being normal trash. So I get why it's in there. I just don't. It's pointless. It's kind of pointless if it's not on. If Bellow's not on the field, it doesn't synergize really well because it just makes hamsters. It's just not really something I would make sense in my brain other than just creates blockers. So I just get rid of it and just kind of go down the thing of big creatures. Just get big creatures out, big CNC rocks.
You don't even need big creatures. As long as you can keep your commander in play. All you need is protection and...
1 lightning grease is all you need. And a Swiftfoot Boots for backups.
And a whole bunch of really fun artifacts and enchantments that cost 4 or more. And then you just smash face with those.
Now, the next one, I think people would get mad about. I would cut Greater Good. And my reasoning is that because you sacrifice a creature and draw cards. It's a really good draw card mechanic, but it makes sense in a stompy deck when the power toughness is 6 or above. I think that's where.
No, that makes sense. If this deck is working right, you're punching people with a bunch of 4/4s.
That's just a big go wide deck.
And then so you draw 4, then you discard 3. Yeah, you come out ahead, but not by much. So yeah, good call.
And it does become a creature. It just doesn't make the most sense. I think this
sacrifice it to itself.
Yes. Indestructible, hasty creature that I just got out of nowhere. Get rid of Starstorm. I don't know why that's in there.
Because cycling.
Yeah, that's the only reason why. Just get rid of it. Cycling, not that great anyway. Burnished Heart. All I can say is just play a Sullen Simulacrum or the Sad Robot. It's 1 mana more and does way better stuff. And with the sacrifice ability, it actually costs 1 less in the end game. Last one is the Bright Cap Badger. I forgot what it does. It just doesn't really make sense.
No, that's all right. I brought that's on my cut list too, so I'll just look it up.
Yeah,
here we go. It's an adventure. You can go on the adventure and create 2 1/1 sapling creature tokens. And then when you actually make the creature, who is a badger druid, by the way, each fungus and saproling you control gains tap to add green. And then at the end of your end step, create a 1/1 green sapling creature token, which is not what this deck wants to do.
No. The tokens are just the ramp. That's all it's do. I know why it's in there. It just doesn't make sense. You can make.
I wholeheartedly agree.
It does not make any sense. Now, ads. The first one I would put. It's another good card. It's also getting close to budget because it got reprinted a lot in last year. Guardian Project.
Ooh,
card.
Interesting.
Card draw, it is a 4 CNC, so you won't get as much card draw as you would in theory by Greater Good, but it's still a 4 CNC, so it still becomes that 4/4 creature. And again, we're in Commander. There's going to be a whole bunch of different name permanent cards, so it's going to be real easy just to draw a card.
All right.
Number 2, Goblin Anarchomancer. Really is just to reduce the spells.
Yeah.
Because if you're playing big CMC things, it's just better to get more of that down. And by that theory, even playing the medallions, because now since they got reprinted, they're like $3 a pop. In theory, I know they don't really make sense because they're 3 cost medallions, but they could help out a lot in this deck for the long run. Anywho,
medallions are nice rocks.
Yeah, they are very nice rocks. All right. Last one, the next one, Gruul War Chant. The Southern's coming out. Gruul War Chant. It is an enchantment. I think it's 4 or 5. So it would become a creature, but it gives creatures +1/+1 in menace. So can you imagine all your rocks coming online? Now they're all 5/5s, and they all have menace.
Well, look, this was one of the ones I considered on my ad list, but I think I found something a little bit better. But anyhow, keep talking.
All right. So I like that one. Fiery Emancipation. That's if any source of yours deals damage, it triples the damage. So
Yeah, that's fun. I just got one of those the other week. So yes.
and it's a big one. And then another one I found that is definitely funny, and I would not do it all the time. But if I was to, when I edit this deck finally or keep it as it is, it's Mirror March. You flip a coin. If you win, you copy a creature. So you do it obviously on your turn, and you just copy Gruul War Chant or
you just keep copying.
As long as you win the coin flips, you keep copying, which just means you get ETB figures.
Except when the non-token creature you control enters, it wouldn't look at all those things that turn into creatures at your turn because they've already entered. It would only look at
when you copy
creatures.
It's when you I'm saying when you copy if you win, you copy those.
Well, you make a copy of whatever creature that entered. So you.
I must have read it wrong, but I still liked it.
It's all right. It would be fun. I mean, and it's a 6-drop enchantment, so if nothing else, you can turn it sideways. All right, what would I cut or add? Well, in addition to cutting Brightcap Badger, because 1/1s, what is the point? That's why I'd also get rid of Tendershoot Dryad, which is a great card. Llanowar Loam Speaker, because I don't want to animate my land. Grothama has a home in another deck. Certainly not this one. And Thickest in the Thicket is neat, but just doesn't do it for me. I would just jam it into another +1/+1 counter deck and go from there. Our friend Austin suggested the various ley lines, and there's 3 red and 3 green ones. You know, those fun things that all cost 2 at color, and if they're in your opening hand, you can play them for free. But I looked at all 6, and half of them aren't even playable. And honestly, I don't think I'd get any but one of them. Regardless, you heard my 5 what I would cut, and this is what I would replace these cards with. Number 1, one of them would turn into Aether Flash, which is a red enchantment for 2 red. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, comes into play, as this old templating reads, Aether Flash deals 2 damage to it. Because you know what's fixing to happen now that Bloomburrow has dropped? Everybody and their brother is going to be playing token decks. And most of the tokens are spamming the field with, at least initially, are 1/1s. And this puts paid to that nonsense, and then you animate it and kill people with it. Item 2 is more of a finisher enchantment, and it's Bedlam. And this is the one I said 1-ups the Gruul War Chant.
I can see that.
Because it costs 2 red, and it reads simply, creatures cannot block. So you have your little army of enchantments and artifacts. You play Bedlam, and you should be able to win. And it's just a great card. Although the original Urza's art is prettier than the one I have in our notes. All right, the next is also an enchantment, and it is Abundance. For 2 green, so you can animate it. If you would draw a card, you may instead choose land or non-land, and then you reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card of the chosen kind. You put it in your hand, and then the others go on the bottom in any order. You know, and the commander lets you draw cards when your toys connect. I mean, you you're sculpting your hand. Plus, it's a fun card, and it's cheap. The next card I would add also draws cards, and it is Shamanic Revelation, and you can just take the one that's in the squirrel deck and put it in here. So it's a sorcery for 3 green. You draw a card for each creature you control, and it has Ferocious. You gain 4 life for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. And the way the commander reads, during your turn, so your whole turn, all these things are 4/4s. And since Shamanic Revelation is a sorcery, you're playing it on your turn. So you can cash in on that Ferocious, and then you can just play Bedlam, because you don't care that people are attacking, because they're not going to be able to kill you.
And I will say this, like, I don't play a lot of green, so I keep forgetting, because when I read it, my brain's like, why would such power 4 greater is such a weird thing, because I play black and red and blue, which there's not a lot of those, so it's like, but you're right, when it's on your turn, and you have, it's turn 6 or 7 or whatever, and you were able to put out a bunch of artifacts or enchantments, well, he's really beneficial.
This is also a deck that's got everybody's favorite landfall behemoths in it, the rampaging Baloths that spam the field with 4/4 green beast creature tokens. I don't know. I like the ferocious until I looked at all of the options, and then there's only one other option that's worth playing, and that's my final card, and it's Roar of Challenge. Another finisher, another sorcery for 2 green. All creatures able to block target creature this turn do so. Ferocious. That creature gains indestructible until end of turn if you control the creature power 4 or greater. So your force, now granted, all the stuff your commander animates is already indestructible. Excuse me. But this provides a nice backup. And it forces all those blocks. So again, all your toys get through. And depending on what you have going on, you might be killing something really crucial that your opponent doesn't want to see die.
Oh yeah, forcing combat is definitely a green thing. All right, on to the last Pre-Con. Squirrels. All right, I started off with the raccoons. You start off with the squirrels.
All right, squirrels. I played against this deck, and since we were training, I helped it win, but I got to see so much stuff. And it won, which it should be expected from all the black-green Pre-Cons, going all the way back to whenever that Marin deck showed up and dominated everything out of the box. Black and green is just a strong combination, and this deck continues that habit. It has solid removal, draw, ramp, and threats that actually synergize with each other. There's a reason that currently this is the most expensive of the Pre-Cons, and it's not just because they've got Skull Clamp in a deck full of 1/1 tokens. I mean...
And Toski and Chatterfang.
I mean, out of box, it can win, via swarming people. It even got like an aristocrat sub-theme, although not all the aristocrat cards. Anyhow, it's a great deck, and it's black-green, so it's arguably one of the most powerful combinations anyhow. So, what do you think, Kyle?
I think for me, it's like, I really don't like playing green, but I really love playing black, and for some odd reason, when they go together, I do really bad. I played it, and granted, when I played it, this was like the 3rd game, and we decided to go to a 5-man pod, and everyone pulled out their like good decks, and I'm like, I'm going to try the squirrels.
Yeah, I don't remember. Did you win or just get really close?
It was when you did I think I did win, but you played Hidetsu. So like everyone down was down to 10. The only thing I could get out was a squirrel that didn't double Myriad, and that's the only reason why I won.
Oh yeah, because Heartless Hidetsugu does that if you do it right. And I had everybody down to 10 life by turn 4.
But I also saw the Gorman talent, and I'm like, why is this card in it?
It's on my cut list.
Yeah, it's on mine. That's just my thing. Is Hazel is a token. It's a token commander, but they try to put in so many different things that create tokens that nothing didn't help out. I every time I looked in my hand and said I can get Hazel out, I just don't think she's worth it at that point. Hazel, I just really don't think Hazel, the commander, did any good for the deck. The whole synergy of the deck did not really match up with Hazel. It might synergize with one another, but the biggest thing is about commander is your commander coming out, and Hazel, to me, really didn't do anything unless you could get some stuff out. So I didn't do 10. I'm just going to go really fast of things that I would cut. Belladros Witherbloom, Chittering Witch, Decree of Pain, Inrays Forerunners, Gilded Goose, Gormon's Talent, Insatiable Frugawar, Moonstone Eulogist, Ogre Slumlord, Plagecrafter, Skyfisher Spire, and the Woe Strider. It's just, they do stuff. I just don't think they go well with token deck.
Okay, I can see that.
Now, to add, so I would definitely make this go more in the squirrel deck. The number one, it is in Bloomburrow, Valley Rot Collar. And when it says when it attacks, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is the number of squirrels, bats, lizards, and rats you control.
That's a good call, and it's probably not in there because it would have been a good idea, and maybe it's a secret card designed to sell packs.
Probably.
Great idea.
This is kind of where I think the squirrels in the main set was a lot better than the squirrels in the commander, because I would say I would rather play the odds Acorn Gain as the commander versus Hazel, but that's neither here nor there. Definitely would put Mirkwood Bats. Okay, if you're going to, is way better card to add is when tokens die, each opponent loses a life, and if you're playing Chatterfang
and Valley Rot Collar's a squirrel.
Yeah, that's squirrel. If you're going to do this, if you're going to do a squirrel token deck, definitely put Mirkwood Bats, because Chatterfang, for one black, you sacrifice squirrels. If you got Mirkwood Bat and you sacrifice 10 squirrels, great. Now everyone takes 10 damage, which in a game of Commander is a lot of damage.
It can be.
So, I also put Jaheira, Friend of the Forest, because its tokens are allowed to tap for green.
Good call.
I think it's just green, or it could be green and black.
Look it up. Jaheira.
But it's a ramp. It allows your tokens to ramp. So if Hazel is out of the question, you had Jaheira on the board, you do have a replacement card if the commander's out and you need that ramp at that moment. So I think it would help out a lot if trading off in that regard. For whatever reason, Squirrel Mob wasn't in here, which is get +1/+1 for each other squirrel on the battlefield.
It's all right. I've already got one.
I don't know why it's not in this deck, but it would have been great. Probably because they didn't really focus on the squirrel tokens. They really just focused on they did a lot of important squirrel mechanics, like Squirrel's Nest and Chitter Spitter and all that, but they didn't go all in on the squirrels.
It's fair.
Assassin's Trophy needs to be in here because it's Skullgari removal. You need to put Assassin's Trophy in there. And for a 6/1 for funsies, I put Nut Collector, because at every upkeep you get a squirrel. So why not? Why not put the Human Bard that makes you get squirrels?
Yeah. No, those are all excellent ads, especially that Valley Rot Collar.
Bloomburrow.
Now, you and I have a couple similar thoughts regarding cuts. See, on my list of cuts are Gorman's Talent and Endray's Forerunners, although in my opinion, objectively, it's a good card. You're boosting your team, and if this deck does what it needs to do, you have a pretty big team. I get it. Here's my issue with Endray's Forerunners. It has garbage art to the point where I'm not going to run it. And yeah, that's 1,000% subjective, but I can do that. So I would cut that card for that reason.
Here first, y'all. You can cut lands. You can cut cards just because the art's bad.
Yeah,
and that's nothing wrong with that.
I do it all the time. I would also cut Rootcast Apprenticeship. I mean, modal cards are nice. I just don't like any of the options. They're lackluster. Wolf Willow Haven, it's just kind of meh. And Chatterstorm, yes, you're making a squirrel. And yes, it has Storm. But in my opinion, you're not going to be able to cast enough stuff to make it worthwhile. And an honorable mention cut is Cash Grab, which is a great name. But I'm not a fan of mill, especially self-mill, especially when it's the only item that does that in your deck. Yeah, and I just remembered something I should have suggested to add. So as I talk, and we're almost done, I would add some types of boosts similar to Endray's Forerunners, one being Overrun. Classic green sorcery for 2, green.
That's a really good one if you have a bunch of squirrels on the field.
I know. I've killed people many times in a squirrel deck back in the day. Anyhow, creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until end of turn. And that one's super cheap because it's been reprinted into dust. My next one is not super cheap, but it's similar, and it's Triumph of the Hordes. It is not yet $20, but it'll probably hit there, I don't know, within the next couple years. Anyhow, Triumph of the Hordes, another sorcery for just a meager 2 green. Until end of turn, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample and infect. So you can load up on all the poison tokens, and you can probably take one player out of the game.
If not more, if you have enough squirrels.
Yeah, which you should. Speaking of having, reams of creatures, Culling Ritual is a black-green sorcery that first showed up in Strixhaven for 2 black-green. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Like your token army. Add black or green for each permanent destroyed this way. Now, plus you're getting all the mana rocks, and you're getting all the other little nonsense utility creatures and enchantments.
And if you think about putting the Mirkwood bats for every creature token that dies, you use one. Every opponent loses 1 life. That would definitely help out a little bit. You have a little more payoff too, if you were able to get both on the field.
And this deck comes with a couple of the aristocrat options, like Zulaport Cutthroat and the Nadir something. The point being, you can get a whole bunch of mana. And then the question becomes, what do I do with it? Well, this deck comes packed with all sorts of draw. You can cast all that stuff you've just drawn. And if you double down on the deck and add all the typical nonsense, like Grave Pact and Erebos Dictate, or Dictate of Erebos, all that nonsense, the dying creatures suddenly makes life miserable for your opponents. But it could be that you don't want your creatures to die because your opponents are scared and they're like, oh, Board Sweeper, Damnation, Wrath of God, because they're cowards. Or they're probably playing Blasphemous Act. Ha ha, I killed your tokens. And you don't have the money for the Heroic Intervention. But you do have the money for Rapid Vigor, a green instant for 1 green. Regenerate each creature you control. I love this card. And not just because it's cheap. It's just a great ha-ha, in-your-face type of card.
That is really good. How much is Rapid Vigor?
Not nearly as much as Divine Intervention.
It's about $10.
No. Divine's $10. Since you're asking, I'll look it up. If it's more than $2, I'll be surprised.
Oh, think about it. Okay.
Think about
Culling Ritual. Under
$1.50.
Think about it. You got to hold the tokens.
No, Regenerate won't get rid of Sacrifice, but it will get rid of Destroy.
That's what I'm saying. Culling Ritual and Rapid Vigor could go with each other.
Well, no, you only get it for each one destroyed this way. So if you regenerate, they're not destroyed. So you would not get the mana. I got one more card that is only on here because I'm old and I was in Korea when this card was released, and I opened it from a pack out of Tempest, and it's called Earthcraft. It is on the reserve list, I believe. It's certainly got reserve list prices. And the only card that really makes it stupid is Squirrel's Nest. Earthcraft's a green enchantment that reads green 1. Tap an untapped creature you control to untap target basic land. And which basic land are you untapping? The one with Squirrel's Nest on it.
That is.
And then you make an army of squirrels.
And sacrificing the Chatterfang.
Or whatever else.
That's funny. That's
and then they all die to the aristocrats nonsense. And I just thought of a black card. I'll look it up while Kyle is talking because it'll be a lot more reasonable in price than $111.
Oh yes. I would definitely go with whatever Ben said over my stuff. Maybe the Valley Rock Cleaver. These are some really good ones. Again, everything we have done has just been personal opinion. What we would do in our decks. Me and Ben are definitely 2 different players. So, do your cuts, do your ads, obviously. But these are just what we think would make the deck run just smoother. And you got 2 different strategies, so you can go with whatever strategy is better for you in that moment. Just whatever you're going to do. What is it?
All right. From the art, I thought it made squirrels, but it does not. It's a black card called Infernal Genesis. It's an enchantment from Prophecy for 4 black and about $2.16. Anyhow, this enchantment reads, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player puts the top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard He or she then puts X 1/1 black minion creature tokens into play, where X is that card's converted mana cost. And I was just chuckling because the art has got the squirrel turning into something else, to include a bear and a tiger. It's really trippy art by Braun Spencer. And in my brain, I thought it made squirrel tokens, which it does not upon reading it. But still,
there's a squirrel in the art.
it makes 1/1 tokens. Oh, and there's a squirrel in Might of Oaks. If you need to pay 4 mana to instantly make a creature +7/+7.
Ooh. So obviously, me and him are going really off track with these squirrels. That does go into what makes squirrels attractive and why they're so high in this go around. But I've liked Bloomburrow. I got a lot of this stuff. I enjoyed opening the packs and the bundles. I think this was a really good set, and it's just sad to think that at the time of this recording, which is like July 30th, that we only have like a month and a half, like less than a month before, Duskborn comes out. So we won't be able to like really enjoy this set for very long.
Well, that's the idea, and that's why they have things like cash grab.
I know.
Ba-doom-tsh.
So again, you can find Ben at Ben Buys Beverages
on YouTube.
You can follow me at BrookieCookieMagic on TikTok and on YouTube, and this will be on Spotify and on YouTube with the way I'm recording this, hopefully. So be on the lookout for both. So go and give both of us a like and a follow. Ben Buy Beverages, he does do reviews of drinks, but also some of the stuff he does is you read. What are some of the stuff you read? Short stories or something?
Everything involves alcohol. Sometimes I read things aloud. At one point, I even opened a whole bunch of Magic cards and that got critiqued quite meanfully about how I was holding them compared to the camera, which is fair. But whatever. I have fun with it, and that's really what matters. So, 186 subscribers. Cool.
I think we're 200, but oh well.
Yay, you're winning. We are winning together.
No, I thought you had 200.
Oh.
Anywho, but yeah, he does short stories. He'll do magic stuff. So yeah, he does more than just review alcoholic drinks. He does a lot of nerdy stuff as well. So thank you for joining us. Hopefully you finish your snacks by now. So you need to go and do those chores you've been ignoring for the afternoon, because I'm doing the same thing. You have a wonderful night.
Bye.
Bye.